for joining me again on exploring this avenue on the path of the seeker. Today we're going to take a look at the love and belonging level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is where it gets really interesting because the answer to ascending this level is not obvious. In fact, it seems downright counterintuitive. Love is absolutely taught and modeled by the parents. Kids will come to associate love with the relationship they witness between their parents. There have been countless groups that have focused on healing the psychological wounds that people develop while children because of their parents. There's a ton of literature out there on this idea, so I'm not going to cover that in this video. However, if someone feels they are unlovable or do not know love, there's only one answer. They must first learn to love themselves before they can experience authentic love in relationships with others. When it comes to the subject of belonging, however, it has nothing to do with the parents. People don't attempt to take dangerous selfies to impress their parents. In fact, a psychologist named Judith Harris argues peers have more of an effect on a child's development and behavior than their parents. I highly recommend you read the article Do Parents Matter from Scientific America. I don't agree with her in every aspect. I believe parents absolutely create the foundation a child grows upon. However, in today's world of absentee parents, where kids are thrust into social situations in preschool at the age of 1 or 2, peers are a bigger factor than ever before. How do peers influence behavior? First, let's take a look at what's considered abnormal behavior. This is the type of behavior most people end up going to see a psychologist or psychiatrist to fix because they can't function in society. Abnormal behavior is defined as anything that deviates from normal. Well, who decides what is normal or abnormal behavior? The answer is society. That is how powerful society is. The group determines what is acceptable and not acceptable behavior. In fact, abnormal behavior is determined on the country, region, and local level. What's considered normal behavior in India or Saudi Arabia may not seem as normal behavior in the United States. Why is experiencing belonging so hard? One would assume the answer has to do with groups, but this is not true. I can demonstrate this with 3 major psychology experiments: the Stanford Prison Experiment, the Milgram Experiment, and the Asch Conformity Experiment. People tend to lose their identity when in group situations. In business, this is called groupthink, but in previous generations, they called it the mob mentality. The first is the Stanford Prison Experiment. Students were recruited and divided into 2 groups. The first group were prisoners and the second group were prison guards. The guards wore big glasses and uniforms. The prisoners were referred to as numbers, not names, and wore matching prison uniforms. The guards, who started off knowing this was all make-believe, eventually tortured the prisoners. The experiment was shut down because it wasn't safe for the participants. This demonstrates how people can lose their identities and their morals when in a group. The second is the Milgram Experiment. The subjects of the experiments were told they were doing a test on memory. They were told to read a series of numbers to a person on the other side of a partition, and if the other person answered wrong, the participants were to shock them. Each time the other person answered incorrectly, the shock level was increased. Eventually, the person who was being shocked screamed in pain. In truth, the people receiving the shocks were actors. They had a script. The real question was, would a person continue to shock the other person if instructed by an authority figure, even if the other person was clearly in pain and begging for them to stop? The answer is yes. The majority of people would continue to shock the other person as instructed. They completely lost their sense of autonomous morality and responsibility when instructed to torture another person by an authority. Finally, there is the Asch Conformity Experiment. In this experiment, the subject was in a group. They did not know that the rest of the participants were actors. When the experimenter held up a sign, the actors were instructed to give the wrong answer to see if the subject would deny his own senses and agree with the group. Asch discovered that when 3 people in a group were in agreement, the subject would deny his own senses and agree with the group. I wrote a blog on the subject of groupthink that covered these experiments in depth, and I'll include a link to it in the description below this video. Based on these experiments, I think it's clear how peers affect us more than our parents. With groupthink, we rapidly lose our own sense of identity and morality. Well, if you can't find love and belonging by joining a group, how do you achieve it? The answer to filling this need seems counterintuitive. You must learn to love and accept yourself. Love and belonging doesn't come from outside of yourself, it comes from within. You need to establish a strong sense of self and right or wrong that you can retain even under peer pressure. In your life, you are the only authority. There is no greater authority on your life than you. No one else has had the unique experiences and gifts that you have. Most people who are seeking acceptance will never find it. People sense when people are unsure of themselves and are naturally repelled. To find acceptance, you have to embrace yourself. Realize there is no such thing as normal and that group opinion doesn't matter. Normal doesn't exist. If you're looking at something and it appears to be green to you, it's green in your reality. Period. As always, it boils down to those two words with which I start every video: know thyself. Celebrate the weird, goofy person that you are, ignore the haters, and eventually the right people who are meant to be your companions in life, the relationships and friendships filled with depth and sustenance you truly crave, will come to you. And that's the biggest step to resolving this level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Groupthink is a dangerous thing. The world needs more individuals and less followers trying to conform to the group. Conforming to the group, while instinctual, is simply, from a psychological point of view, unhealthy. You might not believe this, and I won't delve into this today, but you came to Earth to form an individual identity. Groupthink is the opposite of your spiritual mission on Earth. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day.